introduction. Okay, so this comes from a Chinese article from this website, and I have translated it using Google to talk about through this. It is the title is Suggestions on Complete, Accurate, and Comprehensive Implementation of Carbon Peak and Carbon Neutral Initiatives. The Chinese carbon position is that it will peak its carbon emission before 2030, and it will becomes carbon neutral before 2060. Now, most of the Western countries want to become carbon neutral before 2050, about 10 years earlier. But there's one unfortunate thing is all the promises made by electoral governments, the Western governments, is not worth the paper it is written on. For example, in the United States, we don't know whether the next president is still Joe Biden or becomes Donald Trump. Now, if the next president becomes Donald Trump, it is very likely the United States will withdraw from whatever agreement it had made itself into. So that is the problem. But for the Chinese, when they say we want to achieve carbon peak before 2030, they put in a plan to do it. And when they say they want to become carbon neutral by 2060, they put in a plan. So what we are looking at is their plans. Okay, the principles. Any plan, you might have a principle of how you are going to drive it. So there are a number of elements in this principle. Okay, it is a national overall planning. So it is not provincial. It's not different areas by itself. The whole Chinese thinking is we will plan it as a country, not as individual small provinces. The second idea is saving as the priority. That means we want to minimize or use the energy as efficiently as possible. You want to use a two-wheel drive mechanism. Okay, we will not talk about that. And then you will have to have a smooth integration of the international and the domestic policies. And then most important of all is prevent risk. Chinese government consider risk a very important issue. They do not want to risk anything. So avoiding risk is one of the priorities. So these are the principles they're talking about. National overall planning. Consider the whole country as a single unit. Strengthen the top-level design. Maximize the advantages of the whole system. Implement the same responsibility of the party, the government, and consolidate all the responsibility of all parties. According to the actual situation of each region, we will implement policies and encourage proactive actions and take the lead in reaching the peak. Put energy and resources conservation in the first place. So it's not about increasing the capability as the only method. Another method is what we call negative energy saving, making the compliance more energy efficient. Implement a comprehensive conservation strategy. Continues to reduce energy resource consumption and carbon emission per unit of output. That's what they're talking about. They want to reduce their per unit GDP output of carbon dioxide by 60% by 2030. Improved input and output efficiencies, advocate a simple and moderate, green and low carbon lifestyle, and form effective carbon emissions from source and the entrance of control the valve. They want to control where the carbon's coming from. The so-called two-wheel policy is integrate the government and the market forces together. So government will be pushing, but they will be using the market forces to to make sure it meet the efficiency requirement, strengthen technological and institutional innovation, and accelerate the green and low carbon technology revolution. One of the methods of achieving low carbon, obviously, is through renewable energies. And then for renewable energy, you need to maintain a technological innovation in order to reduce the cost of all this technology. Deepen the reform of energy and related fields, give full play to the role of market mechanism, and form an attractive incentive and restraint mechanism. So China has already started its carbon market. The carbon market means some of the energy emitters are given quotas. And then if they can reduce the emission, some of the quota may be sold on the carbon market. Another way is we also need to consider after peaking or neutral, carbon neutral, how are we going to get all the carbon which is in the atmosphere back down to Earth? So there is another issue which COP26 haven't addressed. Smooth integration of international and domestic policies. The government will coordinate domestic and international energy resources and promote advanced green and low carbon technologies and experience. We will make overall plans for external struggles and cooperate in response to climate change, continue to increase our international influence and voice, and resolutely safeguard China's development rights and interests. Here, there's another important idea is that some of the carbon, actually most of the carbon already in the atmosphere were emitted by the developed country. China becomes the largest emitter only in the recent years. So China's responsibility should be in line with the amount of carbon China has emitted historically. So China is not going to bear the main brunt of reducing carbon in the atmosphere. Preventing risk. Deal with the relationship between pollution reduction and carbon reduction, energy security, industrial supply chain, food security, and the normal life of people. Now, any carbon reduction will not be successful if people's life had to be reduced. We will not support any policy which will make our life worse. Only when by providing a better life to people through green technology, then you will be successful. So we must prevent any problem like food security or the normal life of people. And then you have to respond to both economic, financial, social, in order to make sure that we have a safe carbon reduction. The target by 2025, so there's another 4 years from now, an economic system of green and low carbon circular development will take shape, and the energy efficiency of key industries will be greatly improved. Energy consumption per unit of GDP will reduce by 13.5% compared to 2020. So that is by another 5 years later, then every unit of GDP, the carbon emission will be reduced. Carbon dioxide emissions per unit GDP will be reduced by 18% compared to 2020. And we have, I think I make a translation mistake. We did the same thing, but anyway, we know that they are going to reduce carbon emission, put it that way. Then by 2030, significant result will be achieved in the overall green transformation of economic and social development. The energy efficiency of key energy consumption industry will reach the international advanced level. That means it will be similar to the advanced countries. Energy per consumption per unit GDP will drop significantly, and carbon dioxide will drop by 65% compared with 2005. And the portion of non-fossil energy will reach 25%. And then the total installed capacity will be 1.2 billion kilowatts. Forest coverage will increase to 25%. The forest stock volume will increase, will reach 19 billion cubic meters. And carbon emissions reach the peak, achieved a steady decline. So the promise now is 2030 will start to decline. Another new agreement from China, which is not included in this paper, is they will include methane into the discussion as well. So here is only talking about carbon dioxide, but they now agree to include methane as well. So that will be another huge effort in order to reduce the methane emission. By 2060, then it will be a green, low carbon, circular economic system and a clean, low carbon, safe and efficient energy system. The energy use efficiency will reach the international level. The proportion of non-fossil energy consumption will reach over 80%. Now, we know that there is always a fraction which has to be dependent on fossil fuel, but that fossil fuel can be balanced by carbon capture. The construction of civilization had achieved fruitful results, creating a new realm of harmonious coexistence between man and nature. That is a very Chinese thing to say. We want always be harmonious with nature. Promote the overall green transformation, strengthen the leadership of green and low carbon development planning, integrate carbon peak and carbon neutral targets in medium and long term, etc., etc. This is and optimize the regional layout of green and low carbon development. But at the moment, we know that, for example, in the Chinese East Coast, where the main economic activities are, and therefore it requires coordination in all these mega cities. So in particular, they're talking about the three mega cities. One is Beijing, Tianjin, and Hebei. The other one is the Yangtze River Delta Belt, the Delta Region Economic Belt. And then, of course, is the Pearl River Delta Belt, which it consists of Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, in the and Shenzhen in the Great Bay Area. So these three regions will be the future economic development of China. And therefore, if these three regions put in the best of the green technology, then the Chinese economic development will not be so much carbon emitters. Accelerate the formation of green production and lifestyle, rigorously promote energy conservation and emission reduction. So we have to drive everybody to do the same thing. And another thing is adjust the industrial structure. Promote the optimization and upgrade of the industrial structure. Promote green agricultural development. Promote agriculture carbon sequestration and efficiency. Formulate implementation plans for carbon peaking in industry such as energy, steel, non-forest metals, petrochemicals, building material, transportation, and so on. And for those high energy consumption projects, they are going to stop them or change them to be energy efficient. So newly built and expanded steel, cement, glass, electrolytic, aluminum, and other high energy consumption and high emission projects strictly implement eco and reduce production capability. So they are not going to invest in high emission industries want to minimize the carbon emission. Because they develop green and low carbon industries, such as information technology, biotechnology, new energy, new material, high-end equipment, new energy vehicles. New energy vehicles is a very important part of the whole strategy. Another one is to construct and clean, low carbon, safe, and efficient energy system. Now, China with 1.3, 1.4 billion people, of course, they consume a lot of energy. And therefore, we need a low carbon energy system. So they will apply dual control on the consumer side as well as on the production side in order to reduce carbon dioxide. Significantly improve energy efficiency so that we don't have to produce so much energy in the first place. Control the use of fossil fuels. It will control the growth of coal consumption in the 14th five-year plan, which is the current plan. And then the next five-year plan, they want to start reducing. China has about 50% of energy produced by coal. And then it has slowly replaced all the oil energy production into natural gas. One way to reduce the carbon emission of China's energy production is to change the coal production into natural gas production using methane. Now that part is still emitting carbon, but the intensity of emission is highly reduced. That means it can reduce a large amount of carbon dioxide just from switching from coal-fired power plant to natural gas power plant. But eventually they have to reduce that. Actively develop non-fossil energy, implement renewable energy substitution actions, wind energy, solar energy, biomass, ocean energy, geothermal, etc., etc. So we need to get as much renewable energy as possible. Another issue is renewable energy will have to depend on the weather, and therefore it will need energy storage as well. And also develop hydro energy. Now we know in China, the Yangtze River got a lot of energy and a lot of water. So just along that Yangtze River, there will be a lot of hydroelectrical production. Deepen the reform of energy system and mechanism. Reform of the electric market. The electricity market can reform so that when the renewable energy are producing, then you will make the cost of electricity cheaper. And when the renewable energy is not producing, you will make the electricity price more expensive. By having a price difference there, then people can choose when to use energy. Naturally, they want to use energy where it is cheap, and therefore make the storage question a little bit easier to solve. Another method is use the new energy vehicles as storage. Most of our vehicles is not used full time. The public vehicles are, but our private vehicles mostly are sitting in a garage. If this car are electric car, they have a very large battery, and that battery can be used as a storage and provide energy when the energy price is high. Then your car can provide energy and then make money. When the energy is cheap, you can recharge your car so that your car will get, and you can make money from that. And so there's another energy system reform necessary to provide this kind of mechanism. And low carbon transportation system. Transportation system is one of the large a carbon emitter. So we need to change the transport system to a low carbon transportation system. So we need to optimize the transport system, speed up the construction of three-dimensional transportation network, vigorously develop multimodal transportation, increase the proportion of wheelways and waterways, because these are less carbon intense. Promote energy saving and low carbon vehicles like electrical or hydrogen vehicles. Actively guide low carbon travel. Basically, ask people to travel by train rather than by plane. We also need to improve the green and low carbon development in urban and rural constructions. The cement is a very large carbon emission product, so we need to improve that. Promote low carbon transformation of urban and rural construction and management models. Vigorously develop energy saving and low carbon buildings. Optimize the building energy structure, deepen the application of renewable energy in buildings, accelerate promotion of electrification and low carbon building energy. For example, I think in the last financial crisis, the government introduced the insulation project for our homes. That is part of the improvement of energy of our buildings. Strengthen research. Any improvement have to become from innovations, and therefore research and technology is part of the solution. If we can't find a cheap solution, then we won't have an answer. So it will advance different types of technology, including solar power, wind power, new method of producing energy, etc., etc. So another thing is to improve the carbon sink. We have to emit some carbon anyway. So if we want to achieve neutral, we need to take the carbon down. So that will be the carbon sink. So one way to do it is make better use of the land and stabilize forests, grasslands, wetlands, oceans, soil, frozen soil, etc., etc. So make sure our land will capture the carbon. Increase the carbon sink of the ecosystem. Improve the level of green and low carbon development in opening up. China will continue to reform and open. Speed up the establishment of green trading system. But as I said, China has already started its carbon trading system. Promote green Belt and Roads initiative. So China has now promised not to build any coal-powered stations outside of China. Strengthen international exchange and cooperation. So we need to work together in order to produce a low carbon future. And improve laws, regulations, standards, and monitoring systems. So policy mechanism. So you see, I'm not going through this very, I'm just going through it very quickly in order to give you an idea what the Chinese government has put in place. Then effectively organization and implementation, etc., etc. So you see the Chinese government put in a plan. So hopefully they can achieve what they promised to do. And for details of these documents, I can send it out as a handout later on. So no need to read through everything. So we can go into discussion. Any question or comment? No? Yes. You haven't turned on your speaker. Yes, Clifford.
Sorry, Albert. To do with the alternate methods of generating electricity, is China quite advanced in generating electricity from waves, ocean currents, like the tides? I think Western Europe, maybe Denmark, UK or Germany might be advanced, Netherlands, but is China, I don't know anything about that field, but is China quite advanced in that?
No, China is not. In terms of the tidal energy, China, there's a lot of things to learn. China need to learn from tidal energy. Yes, it is not advanced. China is advanced. Not, I can't say advanced. China is on par with the best technology in terms of solar, wind, and hydroelectricity. But in terms of tidal energy, China is far from being a leader.
Okay, thank you. And also, is it possible that houses and buildings could have some sort of wind generators on the roof to generate power for individual houses? I don't know if this happens anywhere in the world.
Well, I think in one of those high buildings in Shanghai, the top few floors is actually a wind turbine. Is that in Shanghai or something? There are now methods of generating renewable energy in commercial buildings. Another technology coming in soon, I hope, is a thin transparent film, which can be put on the outside of the building, and then that will become a solar panel. So I think that technology is almost mature now. I think we will see that technology being used in about 2 to 3 years time. So all high-rise building today, most of the building has a glass facade, glass outside, glass cladding, and then they can just put on a film on it, and then it becomes a solar panel. So that will be a very, very effective use. And another thing is solar thermal heaters on the roof. We have some solar thermal heaters here in Australia as well. You see a box with pipes on the roof. These are evaporative heat collector, and they are very efficient, and they are very cheap as well. So there are a lot of buildings already have this in place. I think I'm still waiting for our government to install this solar water heater for us free.
Albert, do you think China might be leading the world in the field of alternative power?
Alternative vehicles, yes, because China is now the world's largest car market, and China is investing a lot of money in making electrical cars. I think 2021, the electric car market in China broke the last year record as well. So China is selling a lot of electrical vehicles. Yes.
Are they making fast progress to do with power for aeroplanes and ships? That's not the traditional.
No, I haven't heard anything on that. No, I haven't heard it. So probably somebody have to look into these areas. Airplane is one of the issues is we can make a bio airplane fuel. So if we can change the plane fuel, the plane's fuel system from the current current fossil fuel into biofuel, then it will be carbon neutral, but it will take some time. And obviously that also eats into the land for producing food. So there will be a competition between food production and fuel production.
Albert, I think you told us on a previous class about, I don't know when, but the 2022 Olympic Games, Winter Olympics are coming up somewhere in China. And because of that they cut back on their iron and steel production to try and minimize the air pollution. But I don't know whether they've temporarily stopped importing Australian iron ore, and it seems to have backfired on them, stopping Australian coal imports. They seem awful short of coal at the moment on the world news.
Yeah, the Chinese sort of coal is a artificial problem. What with this low carbon initiative, so the local governments artificially stopped the coal-fired stations to work, to function, and therefore caused electricity reduction. And now the problem is solved. They will resume coal production in order to make sure the coal-fired power stations continue to work. And in terms of the relationship with Australia, I don't think the relationship will improve unless we have a change of government. China is Australia's largest trading partner. We sell a lot of iron ore and coal to China, but unfortunately, iron ore and coal are not unique from Australia. China can buy it from somewhere else. So, for example, iron ore, China is now buying a lot from Africa instead of from Australia. Of course, the transportation is much longer way, but still, the production cost is not significantly different from Australia. So they are now buying from Africa rather than from Australia. In terms of coal, a lot of people say, okay, because they don't buy coal from China, therefore they have no electricity. That is a wrong argument, because our coal is of pretty high quality. It is used in iron production, but not used for heating or for running the electrical generation. China has sufficient coal for itself to be used for electrical generation. So the coal China bought from Australia is for iron ore reduction. So the iron ore is basically carbon, iron oxide. Coal is carbon. So by combining coal with iron oxide, then we will produce iron plus carbon dioxide. That means we can get the metallic iron back. And that's where the Australian coal is mostly used. China will be reducing its carbon metal production. It will, at the moment, China produces about 60% of the world's iron, but it will reduce back to about 45%, somewhere like this, rather than becomes the world's iron producer, the steel producer. It will just produce enough for itself to use. I think that is their strategy. And then other countries, you need steel, you probably will have to buy it from somewhere else. China is reducing its steel export.
Albert, to do with the huge number of hydroelectric dams that have been built or will be built in China, are they for a combination of factors, meaning electricity, irrigation, flood control, possibly other uses? I don't know.
Well, the first objective of building dams is flood control. That's number one. The number two objective is for irrigation. And the third objective is for power production. The fourth is for tourism. Tourism is still making a lot of money. And they also allow people to fish in the dam as well, which is, again, a money-making mechanism. So the Chinese dam have a lot of functions at the same time, but the priorities, as I said, is flood control, number one, because that relates to people's livelihood, and irrigation, number two. Number three is electrical production, but they have sufficient electricity production at the moment. So the main production now is in Yangtze River. The Pearl River is not fully utilized yet. We are waiting for China to utilize the Pearl River. The Yellow River is a big problem because the Yellow River got so much the Laos settlements, so they need improvement in technology before they can fully utilize the Yellow River. And another thing is the Yellow River tends to dry up, so they what they are doing now is building a canal to link the water heads from Yangtze River with Yellow River on the western provinces, so that they are going to divert, I think, 5% of the Yangtze River volume into the Yellow River in order to make sure Yellow River can be running year-round. And Yellow River obviously also provide irrigations for the Manchurian plains and some of the fertile area in the Laos Plateau. So maintaining water flow in Yellow River is very important. And China's northern areas where Yellow River flow is pretty dry. Next to Yellow River, the Gobi deserts. So China really need Yellow River to be flowing all the time. And in order to make sure Yellow River has sufficient water, they are trying to build a south to north water transfer. And on the west, there's already a south to north water transfer project on the east coast, where the water taken from Yangtze River is transported to Beijing and Tianjin for their use. But basically, they want to make sure Yellow River won't dry up throughout the year. That is best done at the waterhead near Tibet and Xinjiang. So they are going to build a south to north water transfer to make sure Yellow River will be flowing. And then after that, I think they will start thinking how to make sure the Yellow River also can produce electricity. But at the moment, Yellow River the main function is still irrigation.
Albert, on a previous lectures, you've told us about the great majority of Chinese population is on the eastern half of China, mainly along the coast, but is to do with their natural resources, meaning minerals, metals, oil and gas. Is a lot of those resources sort of along in the highly populated areas, or it's got to be transported huge distances from the west, from the interior?
Yeah, they have to transfer a larger distance from the interior because, first of all, being highly populated, it is difficult to further extract natural resources because there are so many people already there. You have to move people away in order to extract natural resources. So no, the bulk of the Chinese resources is in the western area, which is now not very highly populated. It's very thinly populated. So there are still a lot of potential of developing areas in the western region. The main problem is western region is pretty dry. So how do you provide with the sufficient water is one issue. The second issue is the Western region is very mountainous. So transportation is a big problem as well. So they have to solve these two issues in order to move more people towards the West. I really want to, if I can afford it, get a property in Xinjiang. The main reason is just girls are very beautiful. So I can sit there watching the girls walk by and enjoy myself like that.
That's very good.
Albert, to do with the huge shortage of water all over China, or the north.
No, the water is sufficient in the southern part of China, but it is lagging in both the west and the north.
Okay, but are they perhaps lead the world in desalination of seawater or saltwater lakes?
No, not yet. The Chinese desalination plant is still very primitive. So they are solving the water crisis by water transfer rather than by desalination. Because in the south, there's sufficient water. Yangtze River is all year flowing. So and it also floods a number of times every year. So there's plenty of water in Yangtze River. The question is the Yellow River. So as long as they can move some water from Yangtze to Yellow River, it will solve the northern water problem. I don't think desalination will be an urgent need. We don't know in the future, but at the moment, I don't see it as an urgent need for desalination.
To do with the Mekong River, I don't know the geography or the numbers, but I know China has built or will build a very large number of dams on the Mekong River. I don't know if it's Tibet or what province, but is that might cause enormous environmental, ecological damage to the lower Mekong, meaning Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, Myanmar, but are they permitting sufficient water to keep flowing in the Mekong River? Because Cambodia is heavily dependent on fish from Lake Tonle Sap, which floods at a certain time of the year.
Yeah, now China has some projects wanting to bring the water from the south side of the Himalaya into the north side of the Himalaya. We know that the monsoons coming up from the Indian Ocean will be drawn up because of the Himalaya. And therefore, once the air passes through Himalaya, it becomes very dry. Most of the moisture will be dropped onto in the southern side of the Himalaya, which includes India, Cambodia, Vietnam, etc. And many of these rivers in these countries originates in China anyway. So what the Chinese want to do is divert part of this water, tunnel through the Himalaya and flow into the north side of the Himalaya mountains in order to provide water from Tibet and Xinjiang. I don't think they will divert a huge amount of water over there because the population over there is not huge, so they don't have this need of extracting a lot of water through the tunnel to the northern side of the Himalayas. And on the southern side, is mostly driven by rain rather than by water from Himalayas, because there's so much water already, so much rain is already falling on the southern side of the Himalaya. India, Vietnam, etc. is very wet most of the time, but obviously in some dry seasons, then they would like the rivers to be maintained flow. I think China will work with this government to make sure that whatever water diverted over to the southern side will have sufficient to make sure the other rivers are functioning as an ecosystem. I think the government have to work together. I'll put it this way. And I think China will understand the ecosystem to make sure that it will be flowing, maintaining the ecosystem in the lower part of the rivers. But there is something I don't know a lot. I only know that there are suggestions of diverting some water from the southern side of the Himalaya into the northern side. But how that project is going, are they going ahead or only still planning? I don't know. But that would be interesting to watch in the next couple of years.
Albert, I'm very interested in geology and to do with the Three Gorges Dam. I remember on TV decades ago, before it was finished, that a top Chinese geologist was saying it was very unstable geologically to do with earthquakes in the upper reaches of the Yangtze River or around the Three Gorges Dam. But I assume because they've built so many dams, if one of the top dams was damaged by an earthquake, landslide, maybe the dams below could absorb the huge floods of water if a dam failed.
Well, yes. Now, when you have different dams on the same river, and when one of the dams collapsed, there will be a lot of water running downstream. So that will be very dangerous. Now, in terms of dam design, some of the dams in the upper Yangtze River are concrete double curve dams. Then they have to be designed very carefully because there are thin dams. Okay, but for the Three Gorges Dam, it is a gravity dam. That means the bulk of the dam is held by the mass of the dam, the heaviness of the dam. So there is a lot of earth in that dam. Gravity dam is very strong. If you don't have seepage through the dam, one of the most important things is they have to make sure that water doesn't seep into the interior of the dam. If they seep into the interior dam, then will open up creek and then you eventually will break. And a lot of people say the Three Gorges Dam might be damaged in a earthquake, but as far as it has gone through this number of years, the Three Gorges Dam is still pretty stable. There is no any observable damage to the dam. So I will think it will remain safe for another couple of 10 years, maybe another 40 years before. I don't know what is the life expectancy of the dam. I think it's a 80 years or 120 years life expectancy. So when they designed it, they already put in place how long the dam is going to be there. Don't hold me to that. I can't remember what is their life expectancy, but it should be okay. I don't worry about that.
Do you worry about them being bombed in a war?
No, because it's a gravity dam, so it will not. In a war, you will make a little bit of damage, but you can't damage the whole dam. It's already taken into account.
Maybe the dam busters will.
Yeah. For example, during the Second World War, the Kuomintang have blown away a water bank of the Yellow River. So to put all the to stop the Japanese army advancing, so they have tried it. That action I think cost almost 1 million lives. So
it just
we don't
makes
want to-
them quite vulnerable.
yeah, hopefully we don't have any war, because any war with China almost mean humanity's extermination.
There are people in America who are quite happy with that.
Yes, true. But hopefully some people are more sensitive, sensible.
Don't know about that.
Okay. We'll finish it today here, and then we will have another meeting next week. Is next week the last week or not?
You can go as long as you like, Albert. We're
Okay.
running classes face to face till the 18th of December, but I won't be here next week because I'll be on that Silos tour.
Good.
I might not have good Wi-Fi.
Anyway,
Yeah, so
I
it's
will
up to
continue.
you how long you want to go, Albert.
Okay.
Normally next week will be the last week, I think.
Okay. Thank you. I probably will go 1 more week after next.
I mean, you've been going right through, so you're allowed to do whatever you like.
Okay, thank you. Bye then.
Bye-bye. Won't see you next week.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye.
Very much, Albert.
Thank you.
See you all. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Bye.
Albert. Bye-bye.
See you, bye.